Hi, my name is Judy and I'm the City Stitcher, and welcome to my Flosstube channel. Today is Sunday, June the 5th, and in case you don't know, this is the weekend that the United Kingdom is having a 4-day celebration for Queen Elizabeth II's Platinum Jubilee. So in honor of that, I thought I would dress up. So here I am in my finery in honor of the Queen, because I am 100% sure that the Queen totally watches my Flosstube channel regularly. Anyway, if you haven't been watching the Jubilee events, I have to say my favorite part has been the fact that she pre-recorded an event where she does from the rock band Queen, their song We Will Rock You, that she actually tapped on a teacup to the clapping part at the beginning of that song, along with Paddington Bear. So if you are looking, I will try to find a clip of that and put it in the comment section down below if you want to see that. That's my favorite part. I love stuff like that because I truly believe that she has a really good sense of humor, and has taken the opportunity to display that. It doesn't outrank her appearance with James Bond for the London Olympics, but it's close. it's ranking 1B. Okay, maybe 2, but anyway, the Bond appearance in Buckingham Palace for the London Olympics I thought was fantastic, and again I think totally reflects her sense of humor, and how surprised everyone would have been that she would have been willing to do that. So loved it. This is a channel about cross stitching. I know you may not be able to tell from the way I'm dressed or what I've been talking about, but this is actually a channel about cross stitching and the stitching that I have done over the past week. So if you are a new viewer, thank you for stopping by and spending some time with me. And if you are a returning viewer, as always, I truly appreciate those of you who come back regularly and watch my journey and comment. All of that is fantastic. So from the comments last week, thank you so much for all of the lovely comments on my finished biscornu. Yes, I'm very happy with how it turned out. I wouldn't say it's 100% perfect, but I'm very pleased with it. And as with everything, the more you do it, the better you get. So I certainly have some learnings from this biscornu, like add more stuffing. It's fine, but I would probably say for my next biscornu, I would add a little bit more stuffing. But like I say, I'm pleased with how it turned out. Yeah. So thank you so much for all the lovely comments. And as I said last week, if you are hesitating about stitching on a biscornu because you don't know if you'll be able to get it together, or sew it together. Not that you can't get it together, but if you are feeling worried about your ability to sew the biscornu together, my answer is please don't worry about that, because if I can tackle it, you can tackle it and be successful at that as well. I forgot to write down the name. Somebody left a comment that they were, maybe it was Betsy. She was lamenting the fact that she wasn't going to be able to make it to the get-together on Saturday, June the 25th. And hey, we'll see at some point if I can't get the Zoom thing to work, and then everybody can participate. But she commented that she was working on stitching a lamb, and it was on the diagonal. And she said, for something that is so little, she's like, it's a lamb. How hard can it be? I think she said she stitched it like she's on her 4th try. And I just want to have a little comment about that, because I know someone else who stitching on the diagonal throws them off, because in cross stitch, because you're tending to do things based on squares, diagonals can throw people off. And so my recommendation is, like, I think part of the thing is you're looking at it and you're going, it's a lamb. And it is going to end up looking like a lamb. But if it's hard on the diagonal, it's probably because you're trying to in your head, you're inadvertently trying to straighten the lamb out so it's more like you would normally stitch it. So on the diagonal, my recommendation to people is don't try, depending on the pattern, don't necessarily try to look for what the design element is, because if you're struggling with the diagonal, just really take it a row at a time, because it will sort of, don't say I'm stitching a lamb, sort of go I'm stitching a row of, you know, 3 squares and then 1 space for whatever the thing is. Really just work your way down line by line through that particular element, because what can happen is that your brain, if you've done cross stitching for a while, tends to straighten the element out, which could be causing some of your counting errors. So don't tell yourself you're stitching a lamb. Just tell yourself you're stitching some specific X's and do it slowly row by row. So just a little commentary on if I've done it, because I haven't done a ton of things where I'm stitching on a diagonal, but I have found that when I'm stitching something that isn't necessarily squared up, like on mandalas, I'm thinking back to like the ink circles bee's knees. So the problem is you stitch, you know, the top and the bottom, but when you do the sides, it's the exact same design, but now it's on a completely different axis, and you have to think about your stitching differently when I was doing that. And the fact that it was on like the path that you'd figured out for when you're doing the top and the bottom versions don't work when you're doing the side, because you're still stitching in the same direction, but now the design is going completely sideways. So just a few thoughts on that one. And with that, let's get into my stitching this week. I'm going to start off with sampler of stitches. I had them up going like, I thought I brought her the piece of paper. Anyway, so this is a stitch along that I'm doing with Sarah, the Stitchin' Mommy. This is a 9-part series of charts by the Drawn Thread, with the objective of finishing 1 letter every 2 weeks, because then by the end of the year, all of this will be complete. And thank you to Charlotte, who commented this like, oh my goodness, look at how far it's come. Yes, I'm keeping a pace. I'm killing myself because I know I hauled out the calendar because I wanted to talk about where I was in the calendar. Now I can't find it. Ah, it's over there. Never mind. I'm on pace. So what I had to do this week was to finish the letter L, and if I had time, then I could move on and start my next chart with the letter M. So what did I get done? So I finished L. So I finished, you'd think I would pay attention to the names of the stitches. So I finished this laced double back stitch. I finished my, these are lazy daisies, it's not lazy daisies, it's, well, technically there's 4 lazy daisies here to make the flower, and then the leaf stitch, and the lozenge filling stitch, and just the cross stitches down here with the broad diagonal cross periodically. Now, in this particular chart, it does not give you the instructions on how to do the broad diagonal cross that's used down here. If you get there and you go, well, how in the world am I supposed to know what the broad diagonal cross is? We did broad diagonal crosses back in the letter B. So all you would need to do is go back into your chart for ABC, and the diagram for broad diagonal cross stitch is there, which is exactly what I did, because I got there and I went, well, I I know I'm supposed to, I know what the concept of was like, but I had him over, was like, sorry, where do I start this one again? Because I always have to look at where you start and end so that I can figure out my path about where I was gonna, how, because I did all of the cross stitches first, and then came back in to do the broad diagonal cross, because the cross stitches were done with the Soie Perlee. The broad diagonal cross was supposed to be done with the Soie 103, which I have made the decision I'm not using Soie 103, so I used one strand of Soie d'Alger to do those, just because it works better on my piece. So I successfully finished that, and as you can tell, I got absolutely nothing stitched on M. Now, part of that had to do with the fact, because originally I was like, well, I will just stitch the cross stitch M and just get that going, and it's fine, because there is a master chart in here that shows sort of how all the pieces line up together. But the funny thing on this one is when I was looking at it, it didn't match up. So again, this is another example of like the pieces in this particular series of charts don't necessarily agree, you know, throughout the components. So I looked at where it was placed in the master chart, and I went, but the counting seems off and the diagrams seem off, so no. So I completely stopped and went, enough of that. Because then I was like going, okay, I'll have to come in and figure out whatever this mosaic, it was, no, it's a Milanese stitch. Anyway, I just went, I don't have time to start finicking anything else. You know, it's going to be easy if I was just going to do some cross stitches, but it really turns out I need to do these elements, certainly these two elements over here, to make sure that my placement for the M is actually in the correct spot. Because like I say, the diagram for just this piece does not agree with how it is placed in how it shows on the main diagram. So that came to a crashing halt, and that's how that goes. You can tell I put it down, went, huh, that doesn't work, and I'm not going to plan on figuring it out, so we'll deal with that next week. And next week is now here. Dee asked a question. So to make this ladder stitch, there's a series of chain stitches sort of down the sides to make this ladder stitch, and she was struggling with making them even. And I will say I agree with the sentiment. I don't love a series of chain stitches, and I will certainly say if you look at it closely, you will see that my chain stitches are not entirely even. And again, this is another example where, you know, if you look it up very, very closely, you'll see that they're not entirely even. But of course, when you hold it back, it looks just fine. And so my only recommendation on that is, and again, because I know going into something where there's a series of chain stitches, so where, you know, technically a lazy daisy is, you know, a chain stitch, it's just one. But what I find the differences are in the lazy daisy is because the chain stitches are going in different directions, I am more successful at stitching those. When it's a series of chain stitches, yeah, I struggle getting them to look uniform and even. And my real answer is just slow down. It's my solution to a lot of things. Don't try to stitch as fast as you can stitch other things, because this is something that, or certainly something that I struggle with and I don't necessarily do very well. So I sort of make my loop, come up with that sort of stitch that you loop over to make, to secure it, and then very slowly sort of pull that big loop through, and then and by doing it slowly, that's when you can sort of decide, okay, now it's now at the spot where it's ready to go. where I'm ready to finish the loop over. If you know what a chain stitch is, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't know what a chain stitch is, you're going like, that makes no sense at all. So sorry about that. But yeah, my answer is I just have to go slowly. And am I usually successful at making them uniform? No. I really struggle with chain stitches when it's a series of chain stitches and getting them to look uniform. I'm just not that good at it. So I always look at that and go, ooh, here we go. And even when I was doing the ladder stitch, I looked at it and went, oh, here we go. It's like, you know, just you just have to say to yourself, I'm just going to slow down so that you can actually make them. By slowing down, you give yourself a better chance of success at trying to make them look good enough for you. There may be people out there who are incredibly fantastic needleworkers who can actually do chain stitches and make them look even and uniform, and that means they're just awesome. That's not me, so my answer is just slow down and do, yeah, slow down, particularly in that sort of getting the loop and the tightening. That's where it's like, make sure you go slowly, because that'll give you a better chance of sort of saying, okay, stop now, because now it's at the spot where it looks like it should. So yes, so there's my sampler of stitches. Was hoping to get something done on the M last week, didn't happen, but I'm on track. It probably means that I will be not on track the next time you see me, because I certainly will not be stitching on this while I'm traveling over the next week. So we'll talk about that again in a bit. All right, so what else did I stitch on? So I did a little more work on my Mirabilia April's Blue Diamond. Oh, hang on a second. Itchy nose. And I did a little bit more than I told you I was planning on doing. So here's where she is now. So I put in that last color of green to finish. So the leaves that I've got started down here in the dress, all of those are now complete. The leaves are complete. And I have the flowers going up here. I put in another color into the flowers, and the reason, because originally I was just going to finish off the leaves, and I started on a little bit of the this ribbon that carries up. Why did I do that? I spent a little more time than I was originally expecting, because I looked at my stitch count because I've got this in Markup RXP. Because this is a Mirabilia, I had to take the chart to the library so I could use the big scanner. But I've got it in Markup RXP, and I looked at my stitch count, and if I did a little bit more, it means I've done just over 2,000 stitches have gone into this piece for my Mirabilia May this year. So I looked at that and went, all right, let's do that. Let's hit the 2,000. Yeah, I love how this is coming along. I am doing this on a 32 count Aerial Lugana by Picture This Plus. So again, made some progress. I'm just really happy that I've got these, that the colors down here have now started in, because I feel like the next time I pick this up, you know, if I can get sort of these flowers down here, it's not a whole lot of work to work the ribbon up here, which means then we're sort of into the top third. Anyway. Alrighty, so that is April's Blue Diamond. So April's Blue Diamond came a little bit at the expense of my progress on my Nora Corbett Sweet Pea, which was my celebratory start in the month of May, because I'd accomplished all of my other goals. So I only got a little bit more in here, and all in that lovely 915 color. So just worked more in here. But I have, for my start on this, I have put in just over 1,000 stitches into Sweet Pea. So I know now that I'm using markup RXP left, right, and center, I do all these ridiculous things where I know how many stitches are in there and where I'm at. If you'd asked me before, because I never counted stitches, I wouldn't have anything. But now that I have an app that tells me all the stuff, so there's just under 7,000 stitches in this design. And I will have done just over 1,000 while I'm putting it away for this moment in time. So thrilled that I got it started, thrilled that I've made progress on it. I'm hoping that this will come out again later this year. So again, sort of once I get past July, there's an aspect to my rotational plan about how I'm working on other things from then till the end of the year. So we'll talk about that as we get there. So I am expecting that this is going to come out again. But yeah, thrilled that it got started. It's another one of those ones, you know, again, if you go back and you look at my stitching plan for 2021, where it's like, start something new every month just because you've had it in your stash for so long and it's ridiculous. Just get it started. I'm thrilled that this has started. This is, I don't know what the copyright on this is. Oh well, doesn't matter. Oh, there it is. 2009. So it's certainly not as old as 2009. So that's 10 years. This is 10 years younger than April's Blue Diamond. Anyway, they're both started now. They're both in my active whips, so that is fantastic. So thrilled with my progress on those. And then, of course, I had my new start because we are now in the month of June. And so my new start was, of course, my monthly cottage by Country Cottage Needleworks. This is the June cottage. I'm looking around going, I've lost, no, I haven't, there it is. It's like I had things to talk about on this. I'm like, where's my props for this part? So there's the cottage. Oh yeah, Sweet Pea is being done on a 32 count Summer Sky Jobelan. All of my monthly cottages are being done on 32 count Icelandic Blue linen by Witchelt, which is, I call it my version of lamb's wool, because I'm pretty sure that all of the called for, well, the cover model was stitched on 28 count lamb's wool linen. I'm doing mine on 32 count Icelandic Blue, and so that's where I've gotten to. This has been a funny journey. So yes, let me get my props here. As always, I don't think I even have that one out yet. Okay, as always, the brown on this is, the called for is 434 and 436, which I find too brown. Those browns are the same browns that are used to do the reindeer in the Christmas Eve Courier series. So I have gone back. It's too brown for me. I can't handle it on this. So my browns are my usual 3863 and 3863 and 3864. That's correct. Which seems to be my default brown when I'm looking at a brown going, whoa, I can't do that brown. My default brown seems to be turning out to be those two colors. So in some ways that makes it easier. It does make it a little more, you know, not that I'm planning on having the whole series of cottages out at one time, but I will know behind the scenes that there is some brown color consistency for some of these. So then the other dithering point is the green here. The called for green is Gentle Art Sampler Threads, which I call Gast, Baby Spinach. And the DMC equivalent was $33.63. So I had the, so this is the baby spinach, and quite frankly, it's looking less yellow on camera than it did when I pulled it out to start working on it. And even when I was putting these colors together, I was looking at going, oh, it might be a little too yellow for me. And $33.63 is less yellow than what my skein of baby spinach is. So that, of course, sent me down into the land of, well, maybe I should be using something else. And so the one that I contemplated was steamed broccoli, right? So it's just a darker version. More, I would say this is closer to $33.63 than my version of the baby spinach is. But I decided not to use the steamed broccoli because I felt it was too dark. And next to the ladybug, I felt like it would give it a little, it was looking a little too Christmassy for my taste. This is June, there's strawberries and ladybugs and all that kind of stuff in this particular design, and so I just didn't want to make it. Now, some people might go, it's red and green, it already looks Christmassy. If I'd made it into the darker green, that's where in my head I went, that's a little too Christmassy for me. So steamed broccoli got the punt, and I actually went with the called for Gentle Arts baby spinach. And then I also, the other interesting thing, the red that I'm using in this is the called for Classic Colorworks Ladybug. Clearly I was using green most recently, so here's the Ladybug. Now the interesting thing, because she does give DMC equivalents for this, and I do tend to look at the DMC equivalents when I'm putting the specialty, the fancy floss into, as I'm kitting these up. No, I bought the, I was slowly working away last year at getting the fancy flosses for this series, and just sort of throwing them into the monthly bags going, okay, you've got it, you don't have it, whatever. But again, the interesting thing is, like, look at how different the Ladybug is from the called for DMC, which is $347. So when I was getting ready to work on this, I was like, ooh, those look really different. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? So I, of course, started with the house. Went, okay, white, let's do the white. But once I had the white done and the roof done, then it's like, well, you can't put this off anymore. You have to make a decision. So what I decided I was going to do was, where's my picture? So what I decided I was going to do is, because I also felt like the brightness of the 347 might be a little overwhelming. So I decided I was going to use my Ladybug for sure for the red around the windows and around the door. I was going to use the red for the flowers that are down here in the bottom, because these are strawberries. Strawberries on the vine growing up, strawberries, 3 strawberries on the bottom and 3 strawberries on the top. So I was going to use the red for everything but the strawberries, and there's also a couple of ladybugs. Anyway, never mind that. And then I was going to have to decide what I was going to do about the June. So that's what I've been working away. Now the interesting thing, as I hold this up, you know, because originally I looked at my Ladybug and I went, wow, those are some really unhealthy, those would make for some unhealthy looking strawberries. I like strawberries. And I will say, I think this is a more strawberry color than my Ladybug. So when I get down to do sort of when I get to work on the strawberries, I will try them with the DMC 347 and see whether I like them or whether it's too jarring. So I'll have to make that decision sort of, well, I'm hoping this week, because I'm hoping for a finish this week on this one. Make that call, see how I like it. So it will either turn into all ladybug or some ladybug plus DMC 347. And then I'm still leaning towards that the word June will be stitched with the ladybug as opposed to the 347. That's where I'm leaning to at the moment. But there's still a lot of stitching left to go on this. So yeah, the house is done, but I have all of the tree to do, you know, the clouds up here. There's some, I'm calling them daisy looking things, or sort of white flowers with yellow centers up here, and sort of the top and the bottom borders. So there's still some stuff to go. So, but I am hoping for a finish this week. We'll see how it goes. So yeah, it kind of slowed down that beginning stitching because I was like, ooh, what do I do with the green? What do I do with the red? Do I like these choices? But I'm happy with where I'm at so far. There's, again, one more decision left to go, and it'll be fine. It will work itself out. All right. So that has been my stitching this week. Stashquisitions. I have none this week. So that's, well, I have none to show. I can say that I did place an order this week. So at some point that will be arriving, and we'll talk about that when that arrives. I placed the order because there was a Memorial Day sale going on, and so I took advantage of that. Placed that order. I'm also, I say that I'm trying to be well behaved while I've already just placed an order, and but I am hoping that there will be some shopping with my travels over the next week. I'm hoping to get some shopping in. I'm expecting to get some shopping in, so there should be shopping to show on my next video. As a reminder, I am not expecting to have a video next week. So I think that one, I'm really going, I don't think I'm going to have a video next week. So that's going to be a blank. So for those of you that are looking forward to my weekly videos, I'm sorry, there likely is not going to be one that week, but there will be one certainly the following week. And I will catch you up on everything that I've done. I was sitting here going like, wow, 2 weeks worth of work. Yeah, so that one could be a long one. So if you like long ones, that's great for you. If you don't like long ones, don't forget you can always pause and watch me in segment chunks of whatever makes you comfortable. Plans. So this is really sort of very briefly the topic. So I'm looking at the clock on the camera going like, yep, this is probably going to be one of my shorter videos. I'm planning for travel, and I'm not doing well. So originally I was going to sort of show you exactly what I was going to be taking with me for my travels. And the problem with that is I haven't made a final decision. So we're going to save that. So that's going to be one of the topics coming up over the next couple of weeks, is what did I really take with me for traveling and stitching, and was it the right call? Because you can always take opportunities to learn from things going, this was great, this I should have done differently. So that is going to be one of the topics coming up over the next several weeks, is sort of what did I actually end up taking versus, and did it work for me? Would I make changes for the next time I travel? It was funny. I was, so I know for sure, so the June cottage is traveling with me. Why? Because it's small, it's portable, you know, the number of flosses that I need to do this design are limited. So that's that's why. The Q-snap that I need for this is also small and portable. I have a plan for a new start, and I'm on version 17 of what my new start is, but I really do think I'm coming in for a final decision. I think I have my final decision on what my new start is going to be. So I just need to cut my fabric for that and get it serged, and then it's ready to go. I have the chart scanned in, not uploaded into Markup RXP yet, but it is scanned. And again, that's one of the things that I've sitting here going like, oh my goodness, another huge benefit to Markup RXP is because I would always be taking my iPad with me when I was traveling, because it's got my, when in doubt, it's got books and videos and games and everything. Now it's got my stitching on it too. So I need to get it into Markup RXP, because then I don't have any risk of taking the paper chart with me and losing the chart or having something happen to the chart. So the paper copies are staying home safe and secure while I take the digital version with me on my iPad in Markup RXP. When I load them into Markup RXP, I also I get them from my computer and I put them into my Dropbox, and then I download them from Dropbox onto my iPad. That's how I do it. But I leave them in my Dropbox account until I'm finished stitching them. So, you know, in case something goes horribly wrong ever, the scanned copy is always available. You know, something completely blows up on my iPad for whatever, and I have to reinstall Markup RXP and I have to reinstall the chart. It's fine because it's still sitting in my Dropbox account ready to be downloaded. So that's great. So I really do need to make my final decisions, because then I can get them loaded into Markup RXP, make sure that the grids are set and I'm happy and all that good stuff. So that's coming, but it is scanned in. And I was laughing because I was chatting with a friend of mine, and she was kind of going like, yeah, it's like, it'd be really nice if you could take this with you on your travels. And she's like, well, you know, why don't you take this? And I'm like going, because I really like that particular piece with where it's at. I really need to work on it using a scroll rod. I don't want to take a larger Q snap with that. So I am specifically limiting myself around the sizes of pieces that I'm contemplating, what it's going to look like, what I'm going to do. And I think I've come down to a conclusion. So I just need to make sure that I get it all packed up and ready. I was supposed to have done my practice pack last night, and that didn't happen for a variety of reasons. So the practice pack is happening tonight. You know, again, this is not a multi-week traveling extravaganza. So one of the concerns that and restrictions that I'm placing on myself is that I am trying to keep everything so that I can do it as a carry-on. So between my carry-on suitcase and I'm neurotic enough, because I've seen it happen too many times, where I've actually gone on to the airline's page and said, what are the measurements according to the airline I'm allowed to bring in? And then I've actually measured, you know, because I have several carry-on suitcases, I've actually gone and I've measured them and said, I'm taking the biggest one that fits comfortably within the airline's measurements. So I'm always cognizant of that, because I've seen, you know, depending on what's happening on the flight, where the airline attendants get really restricted and sort of say, if you can't get it into this specific thing, it can't go. And I've seen people sort of say it still fits within the dimensions, but it doesn't fit in the little thingy anyway. So I clearly don't have one of those, but I've measured all of my dimensions, and they're all like about an inch less for height, width, and length. So I'm going, hopefully everything will work. So I've picked my carry-on suitcase. My personal item is always a backpack. When I'm doing personal traveling as opposed to business traveling, it's always a backpack, because it just, for me, makes things easier, and you can get a surprising amount of things in there. So I'm planning all my things around what to do, what belongs where, all that kind of stuff, while still leaving room for some shopping. It's a little bit of a problem when you're trying to do it all as carry on. So, you know, I'm still, the clothes that I'm planning on taking to where I'm expecting to come back home with me. So it's not like, you know, because I have been on a couple of trips where it's like if the shopping got too much that I, you know, was taking things over with my apparel choices were things that were very simple. It's like, it's a t-shirt here and a t-shirt there. So, you know, chuck the t-shirts and who cares? But the apparel that I have for this, again, I've got an evening event that I'm going to one of the nights where, again, it doesn't have to be super dressy, but I'm still trying to figure out exactly what that outfit looks like and how that fits into the rest of it. And yeah, I've got to do some laundry tonight so that I can firmly do my practice pack. Get my, my other problem is that I'm going to a warmer climate. I've been, and so one of the stops I have, there's rain in the forecast for while I'm there. So I have to plan for rain. In the other location, there's the possibility of rain, but not as much. So I've got some rain in the forecast, but I've also got some really nice weather, like, you know, plus 26 degrees Celsius, which is warmer than it is here. But I'm cold on an airplane. I'm cold in places where there's air conditioning, which as soon as you get into some of the warmer climates, you know, there seems to be air conditioning everywhere. And I don't do so well at air conditioning. So I have 12 things that are a problem for me, which is making the packing a little bit challenging. So that's why I've kind of said, you know, despite the fact that I was planning going, here's exactly what I'm taking with me for my travels. That's not happening because I haven't. I think I've come up with the final decisions. I think so. I think it'll work. I think it will work just fine. I think I've landed on them. So I'm actually taking multiple pieces where I'm at right now. So I think I'm actually taking 4 pieces with me. I know, weird. 4 pieces with me because I'm going to take my cottage. I've got a new start and I'm actually taking, at this point, I think I'm taking another couple of whips with me. So we'll talk about that once I get back. What did I really end up taking and how did it work out for me? So yeah, there's all sorts of things where I'm looking, I'm sort of saying like, I don't, you know, my scissors, I'm taking my little tiny scissors and I'm trying to, I know it's turning into a whole thing where I really have to do my practice pack tonight. So I can make, if it doesn't work out the way they want, because I want to make sure there's room for some shopping. And I've laughed because I also have a friend who sort of said, by the way, while you're there and if you're shopping, could you maybe have a look for this for me? So I have my shopping list. I have her shopping list. Right now, her shopping list is actually a little bit longer than mine, but my answer is I don't want to make a big, long shopping list because you never know till you'll get there what you end up doing. Just a couple of things anyway. So that's all I have. I'm practice packing, getting ready to travel, taking my stitching with me, and we'll talk about that once we get back. So a couple reminders, no video from me next week. I will be returning on June the 19th. So that is the Sunday before the City Stitcher get-together, which is occurring on Saturday, June the 25th at the Signal Hill Library here in Calgary, Alberta. I was re-watching last week's video and it was, in case it sounded like we're really close to capacity, we're not close to capacity. But I just, again, if you can just give me a heads up, you know, even the day before, if you get to Friday and go like, wow, it turns out I can turn up and I'm coming. If you can just shoot me a note to my email, which is citystitcher52@gmail.com, that would be great. We're not close to capacity, but I just want to make sure that in case there's a sudden influx of people who go like, okay, now that we're at the weekend and I know that I can come, I just don't want to have people sort of go like, okay, now that I can come, that we end up being close to capacity. We've still got room. You're still more than welcome to come. You're still all the way to, you know, the night before. If you get there and you go like, wow, I can come, shoot me an email just so that we know that we're looking for you. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of you on Saturday, June the 25th at the Signal Hill Library for some stitching. It'll be great to get together. And looking around, yeah, I think that's it. With that, I know this is one of my shorter videos. It's because I need to go do laundry and do a practice pack. With that, like I said, I'm going to try to see if I can't find a really good clip of the Queen doing We Will Rock You, because I thought it was fantastic. I loved it. Okay, the marmalade sandwich was cute, but the teacup episode, the teacup part was my favorite part. Anyway, with that, again, many so, you know, congratulations to Queen Elizabeth on reaching her Platinum Jubilee. It's the first Platinum Jubilee in the history of the United Kingdom. It is a huge achievement. I have a huge amount of respect for the Queen. So congratulations to you. Thank you for all that you've done. And as always, thinking about the people of the Ukraine, thinking about the victims of some of the shootings that have been occurring and some other violent episodes that have occurred around the world over the past week. So you know my line, safety first, safety first, safety first. I hope you're all staying safe. I hope you're all staying healthy. I hope you're finding some time to do some stitching and that your stitching is bringing you enjoyment and periods of calm with whatever else is going on in your lives. And I look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks when I get back from my travels, and we'll have lots to talk about it then. So have a great couple of weeks, and I look forward to seeing you for my next video on June the 19th. Take care.